Wednesday morning, July 16th, 1969, 3 citizens of Earth set out on a 4-day journey to the moon.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
This is Bucharest, Romania, a communist nation.
Roger.
Everyone shared in the journey to the new frontier. Neil Armstrong, Ed Aldrin, and Mike Collins had plenty of company. The miracle of television brought 600 million people into their tiny spaceship.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. You are confirmed to go for orbit.
Pope Paul.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta in mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui,
You are go for TLI, over.
The lunar module was launched and Mike Collins stayed behind in the command module.
Bye-bye, Eagle. We're standing by for your burn report, over.
London, England.
Burn was on time. The residuals before nulling, minus 0.1, minus 0.4.
In the LEM, Neil Armstrong of Wapakoneta, Ohio, and Ed Aldrin of Montclair, New Jersey, 250,000 miles from home.
Camera near the bottom of the screen, we can see a temple prayer.
Paris, France, the Palace of Discovery, an appropriate setting in which to wonder if man could walk upon the moon.
A series of depressions. I'll zoom the camera in and try and give you a little closer look at this.
4:17:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, July 20th, 1969. We touched down upon the moon. Six hours later, the television screen filled with the most memorable of images, man's first step upon the moon. Tokyo, Japan.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The surface is fine and powdery. I can pick it up loosely with my toe. It does adhere in fine layers, like powdered charcoal, to the
July 20th, 1969. For a few brief moments, the world became one. We all shared in a new frontier. Now there are other moons to reach for, just as there have always been other moons for other men. On May 20th, 1927, Charles Lindbergh set out to reach his moon, to become the first man to ever fly alone across the Atlantic Ocean. Millions shared in the suspense. Lindy was out of contact with Earth for 33 and a half hours. His safe landing was hailed as the achievement of the century. As television carried us all to the moon, back in the 1920s, radio carried us on the first solo flight across the Atlantic. Lindy's words and the words of others spoken about him were instantly carried across the nation by this new means of communication. Radio microphones were everywhere. And with radio, if you didn't get a chance to see him in New York, Washington, St. Louis, or San Francisco, you could hear all about it. Radio made it possible to share the experience. Everyone now shared in news events like this early air-to-air refueling experiment. Radio reporters brought the news into your home. You were there.
The refueling ship, the Patsy Ann, is now taking off with the evening meal for O'Brien and Jackson.
The refueling ship has just left the ground and to make another contact with the two human dynamos of the air.
Radio reminded us of man's continuous quest to build the biggest, the greatest of anything and everything. The world's largest violin, for instance.
Tonight we present Mr. Max Dolan, our musical director, who plays on the world's largest violin, accompanied by the musical musketeers under the direction of Walter B. Band.
Sound that A for me, please. Once again, please. Wait a minute, I think it's a little flat. I'll tune it out.
Will Rogers made news events something to understand and chuckle about, like the money owed to the U.S. since World War I.
You all know Mr. Owen D. Young, you know. He started the Young Plan in Europe. That was that every nation pay just according to what they could afford to pay, see? And, well, somebody else come along with an older plan than Young's plan, and it was that nobody don't pay anybody anything. And, of course, that's the oldest plan there is. And that's the one they're working under now.
Radio is one of the few things Thomas Edison didn't invent, but the great man enjoyed using the new medium. He helped honor the nation's brightest science students in 1930, and the home audience shared it.
It gives me very real pleasure to welcome you 49 young men from each state in the Union and the District of Columbia. I congratulate you all for having earned the right to compete to the final examination here. But let me say this to all of you. Do not count too heavily on your mental attainments. They are necessary to success. But remember always there is no substitute for hard work.
Exciting sports broadcasts help create a nation of sports fans.
It's going to be a tough game. It won't be long now before things get underway.
He's coming up nicely on the run. It's good, and it's going up in the air. Back goes Bletzelry, takes on his 5. He's down 10, 15, 20, 25, and he's down on the 30-yard line. The usual reverse with Bowman carrying, running through center. Bowman's getting in the clear, going for a touchdown. Hootstein's chasing him. Beautiful tackle by Hootstein. They dive across the turf for 5 yards. He passes it quickly.
Football made it big on radio, and so did golf, which had been a rich man's game.
This is one of the hardest days I've ever seen on a golf course.
In 1930, radio carried millions along on Bobby Jones' spectacular Grand Slam.
Comes Bobby Jones up to the 9th green with his usual large gallery.
Bobby Jones, an amateur, won golf's 4 greatest championships, all in the same year. Radio made Bobby the biggest hero since Lindbergh.
Oh, isn't he a wonderful golfer? And isn't he good looking?
New York City honored Bobby Jones, and then Bobby talked to the nation, followed by New York's Mayor Jimmy Walker.
All I can say is that I'm overcome by the very fine welcome that's been prepared for me here in New York, and I'm probably more happy than that to be back again.
These titles were won before you won them, and they will be won for years to come. But what we feel in our heart of hearts is that they will never have been won and never will be won by a more superlative sportsman and a finer gentleman in all civilization.
Just about then, it became possible to have a radio in your car. for the first time.
We have a radio right here in the car, just like we have in our own home. Now let's see what we can get. What would you like, Patty?
Jazz.
Jazz? All right, we'll try WABC. There you are. Right there. Wonderful. We can ride all day and have music just like we have at home. Right in the broadcast, eh? Any station you want whatsoever.
Radio was there when 5 years to the day after Lindbergh's historic journey, Amelia Earhart set out to become the first woman to solo the Atlantic. With her was husband George on May 20th, 1932.
Well, you're all set, are you?
Yes, I think so.
Please don't forget the phone just the minute you get there, eh?
I will.
Goodbye.
So long.
Amelia Earhart took off from Newfoundland and 14 hours and 56 minutes later set down safely in Ireland. Her story inspired millions of young women to challenge new frontiers. Back home in Medford, Massachusetts, her family gathered around the radio to hear Amelia's first dramatic broadcast.
We are presenting Amelia Earhart Putnam, now in London, telling her own story of the flight.
About 11:30, the moon disappeared behind some clouds, and I ran into a storm. It was rather a severe one with lightning, and I was considerably buffeted about. About 4 hours out of Newfoundland, I noticed that the flames were coming through a broken well. However, the metal was very heavy, and I hoped it would last until I reached land.
I was sure Amelia would do it. I had not the moment's anxiety.
Then television came along, another moon. Radio had provided a miracle of worldwide communication. Yet by 1937, there were signs radio would have to take a back seat to this new electronic miracle.
Actual transmitting and receiving are filmed for the first time. Television camera is moved into place. It is compact and not cumbersome. Everything is under control on the stage, every intricate technical detail carefully checked. Now an actual television program with no faking attempted is brought to motion picture audiences. First, a singer takes the television spotlight.
Just as radio led us to the wonders of television, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, and others like them led us into the age of space. And of course, once again, it's just a beginning. For example, would you be interested in taking the first commercial trip to the moon? When Pan American Airways began accepting applications, there were plenty of takers.
I'd like to go to the moon because when I was a little boy, the most impossible feat would be to go to the moon. And now that it's going to be accomplished, I'd like to see for myself what it's like up there.
People might say that's ridiculous, but you look, my grandfather in his time, he came in the 1800s, late 1800s, they were saying man couldn't go 25 miles an hour in a car. Now when the Wright brothers came, they had a crate, they didn't think that would ever fly, and look where we're going in airplanes now.
I flew around the world in Pan American, and everybody said, where are you going next? So I thought the moon would be the most logical place to go.
I'd like to know more about lunar madness, whether it actually stems from there and comes down to here and affects people various ways.
I signed up for the first moon flight because at the time there was only one man on the list from Scarsdale, and I thought I'd sign up to make it, a twosome.
I'd love to go. I think it would be an exciting adventure. Man always wants to go and see with his own eye and touch with his own hand. I think that quality in man will continue forever.
Astronaut Mike Collins says, man has always gone where he has been able to go. He will continue pushing back his frontier no matter how far it may carry him from his homeland. Someday in the not-too-distant future, When I listen to an Earthling step out onto the surface of Mars or some other planet, I hope I hear him say, "I come from the United States of America." Mike Collins is talking about another moon. Your moon. Reach for it.